Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about episode 5 of Bulgasal, Immortal Souls. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode, and obviously having Sungong, ask him for help. He's like, you want me to help you? It's just the most infuriating thing. But he helps her because regardless of everything, there's still always the complication of, well, he also talked about it previously that he'd deal with the consequences of it, that he is killing the reincarnation of his wife. He's killing her sister, so it complicates things. But for him, it's just kind of, he figures it's all going to end well, to set things right, it's all worth it in the end. And I love that Do-yeon's like, oh, you're this kid, who's this lady? He's like, just leave, just go away. And he's like, hey, I saved you, or pulled the sword out of you. But then he goes over and, sees Detective Kwan knocked out, covers him in the jacket. He's like, Father, I didn't make this was going to be how we would meet again. But for him, he was happy. It's like, I've seen it, so it's like, right, puts the jacket on and gets Do-yeon to call 911 for him. And it's like, well, is it even 911 in... Because it's different numbers. I know the translation is in English is 911 just to be like, oh, so you would understand the equivalency. But I know it's different in different languages. It's interesting. Because I guess if they translated it to something, you would have had to be like, wait, what's that number mean? It's like, right, they just make the easiest equivalency of right, it's... Because I think every country has a different number for 911. It is interesting. At least I believe so. I could be wrong. I feel like definitely in Asian countries it's different, but I even feel like it's different in the UK for my recollection. I feel like I remember. Regardless, I'm going on a tangent. It doesn't matter. But he doesn't want his father involved because most likely, it's like, right, you getting mixed up with me is why you died in the first place. You lost everything. You lost both your grandchildren, you lost your daughter, and you lost your own life. So it's like, no, I'm not going to let something happen to you again. So they leave him. By the time the people get there, the others had already left, and Detective Kwan's waking up being like, wait, what's going on? What's the bodies? And they're like, you're the only one here. So I guess after... the other Bulgasal, which we'll learn later on his name, is I guess I'd pronounce it it's either Yote or Iote. I don't know if you really pronounce the E or not. But he completely devoured the entire body. Either that or he just took it with him for a later snack or whatever. Because it didn't seem like it was around anymore. It's like, because it's like, right, no one else, because later on he had Detective Kwan be like, go inspect the crime scene. They're like, oh, are you drunk or something? He's like, I saw a guy. I mean, even though it sounds crazy because he talks about monster stuff, you could just be like, it's some cannibalistic serial killer who was eating someone. I saw that. He also runs into someone he knew back in the day, and I guess a former partner at some point in time. Well, because it almost sounded like they were referencing his previous partner, the one from 15 years ago, to what happened to her after your, craziness of, believing monsters. Or because he did say, if he had not mentioned the monster angle, probably would have been okay. But it's right, when you're caught up in everything, especially for him, this is so personal because he lost someone at a young age to Bulgasal. So, he's on his vendetta, his revenge trip as well. So, when the time came, it's you shouldn't have mentioned that to anyone about... the monster angle to all of this. So, but he should have just left it as Ming Sung-un. I found her, the girl from 15. You remember that case from 15 years ago? I found the missing twin sister, and this guy, he's involved in it. But the moment he mentions monsters, the guy's go somewhere, get help or whatever. He's like, you need to go investigate. He's like. The guy's you've been locked on this, obsessed with this for so long. Now you were talking about monsters then. That's why you had to resign now. Don't, keep pushing this. So, but he's like, fine, I'm going to go get the evidence necessary to prove that they exist. At the same time, this is all happening. Hwal took Sungong back to his place. And obviously, we get a little recap. Once again, just... because it makes sense in the grand scheme of things why she wouldn't remember everything, because it was 15 years ago and it was something super traumatic, as in the death of your mother and your death of your twin sister, plus you've been carrying this guilt for so long, and just also, you wouldn't want to remember the worst time in your life, but also it's because she also blames herself. Remember, if she hadn't gone back home, then who knows what would have happened. At least their mom would have still been alive. But, she's remembering, him coming after and killing Sangyeon. Because when he saw Sangyeon and Sanggeun, he's like, wait, what kind of trickery is this? You split your soul in two. He's like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get you. He's like, I'm going to end this. Like, I'm going to start with you. And he kills Yeon first because she was saying, like, right, no matter what happens, you won't be able to kill her. You won't be able to touch her and tell Sanggeun, like, find that man. And he ends up killing her. And we get more context to that later on, but I'll talk about it when we actually get to the scene of when they're talking. But he thought he had done it. It's like, all right. But the moment he tries to go towards Sanggeun, it happens. Just like the end of last episode, it happens. And even back then, he's like, what's happening? And the wound from his chest starts bleeding. She said he literally wouldn't be able to touch her. Apparently, he can kill her, but he can't destroy her soul. But, like, I'm wondering why. I guess maybe it's because... That's why I'm like, it's a complicated thing of, like, I guess in previous times, it's like, this difference is, maybe in that instance, her soul was destroyed, but you're just trying to destroy Hwal's soul, so maybe that, like, and maybe it also ties with whatever their issues are, like, whatever Sanggeun and Hwal's history is, why she cursed him, before he was even born, like, maybe stuff like that plays like it does something to his soul to make it so that Bulgasal, him in particular, can't destroy it. But maybe the only reason why Hwal can potentially is because it's his own soul. I don't know. There's just something protecting her from, like he said, it's later on. He can kill her, he just can't destroy her soul, and he needs to destroy her soul. But we'll get to that. But she's remembering all of this, and Hwal's there waiting for her to wake up, and she's like, oh, so you're willing to help me? But once again, it's just like, help you? Hell, while she was sleeping, he was contemplating on killing her, like, had his hand around her throat. But she's like, oh, help. He's like, why would I help you? He's like, do you not remember? Are you pretending? Because he's thinking, like, she's faking. But then he finds out, wait, your sister... He's like, why is it that I get the twin that doesn't remember everything? For him, it's like, he would want Sangyeon because he'd want her to remember. It's like, you know what you did to me in a previous life. And you don't know everything. You don't know what you did to me because he wants her to remember. It's like, when I make you Bulgasal again, I want you to remember why I'm doing this. I want you to remember why you're suffering is because of what you did to me, from what you took from me. Not just my soul, but you stole my entire family from me. You stole my life from me. I mean, hell, his entire upbringing was garbage because of being cursed by the Bulgasal. It's like, my mom, like, killed herself so she wouldn't have to deal with the curse. My dad abandoned me, like, and villagers hated him because they believed him to be a cursed child. So it's like, there's a lot of, like, unresolved issues that he's been holding on to these feelings for the past 600 years. It's just like, it's so infuriating for her and just for him. And it's like, to hear you ask me for help, it's like, how dare you? It's like, and it just makes it worse because she doesn't remember. But for him, it's like, does she not actually remember, or is she faking it? That's the big thing for him. So, and he ends up locking her in the room, and for her, it's like, I don't understand why you're doing all this. Well, at the same time, he got the seer lady, because the moment someone came to check on Sehol, I was like, oh boy, it's like one of the monsters or something, isn't it, reincarnated? But it's like, no, it's the seer lady from the village. I was like, hey! And it's like, she's like, I'm here, and I love that Sehol, like, closes the door on her. She's like, ow, ow, my head! I'm here to help you, a friend of your sister. She's like, you're lying. She's like, no! She's like, oh, my neck, too. It's like, this big guy, he's like, no, he seems scary, but he's a big softie. And then he smiles, and because she's so unsure, it's like, no, like, the guy, like, he has a connection to you and he wants to help. It's like, yeah, you're his wife reincarnated, so he wants to make sure you're okay. So I thought that was really sweet because she's super distrusting of them because she's asking a whole bunch of questions. And I even love that the seer lady, when she was calling him, is like, oh, so what do you want us to do? Like, you got her now, so are you going to do it? But he's like, no, there's another Bulgasal. I can't kill her. Well, I can't take her soul until I find out, like, who he is and what he wants. She's like, how do you not know there's another Bulgasal? And I was like, now that's a good question. He'd actually brought it up 600 years ago to his dad, like, hey, like, how do we know how many Bulgasals? His dad was like, there's rumors about it. It's like, and I think it's interesting, once again, showcasing, like, we get a rough estimate of how old he is. On the lower end, he's, at bare minimum, he's 900 years old. So he's definitely way, way older than that. Because back then, Hwal's dad was saying, like, there was a village wiped out by Bulgasal 400 years prior to that, and it's like, after that, no one's seen it since, and he's saying like that is when the rumors started. So he's like, yeah, and the rumors have always been there's only ever been one Bulgasal, so that's why he's like, right, he took his dad at his word because he never heard anything different for the past 600 years himself. So he thought the only one was, well, Songon, but now him. So, but I also love all the while this is happening, Duyan is still sticking around. I love him being like, oh my god, you can heal? Like, are you like Wolverine? And he was asking like, oh, you have no food here. And he was like, it's like, oh, your place is kind of falling apart. He's just like, get out of here, kid. He was like, what do you actually eat? He's like, kids who have no friends of him. He's like, are you joking? And he's like, get out of here. He's like, I knew you were joking. And he finds this canister. He's like, what's in this canister? He's like, wait, were you joking? And it's just like, get out, and tossing him around. He's like, please, you said I could stay here. He's like, plus I'm starving. I'm plus sure that lady wants food. He's like, fine, here. He's like, Bulgasal bro, is it okay if I call you that? Calling him bro. I'm like, hey. I wonder, I know that's a, like, stereotypical, like I know, like, Japanese media uses that. Kind of like when you're in a gang or something, you call something, Aniki. You know, it's like, bro. And I'm like, I think it's so fascinating that I guess like there is kind of an Korean equivalency of that. It's just kind of like, you know, you look up to someone like, oh, you're my bro. I mean, you saved my life and everything, but Bulgasal bro. But it's like, well, how do you know that name? It's like, oh yeah, that old man, like, kind of seemed like he had a grudge against you. And you're like, and now it's like, now he knows, like, okay, so my father reincarnate knows about Bulgasal. How? It's like, obviously, that's the thing too. There's so much not talking going on in this episode of like, not everyone knows what's really going on. There's, you know, which I love. There's like, right, you go get the food, and I love that. So I'm going to try to make her escape. She's like, oh, I want to use the bathroom. He's like, are you going to watch? I knew you were a pervert, and try to get out. But he was like, nope, snatches it from her. It's like, oh, don't try anything funny. She's like, why are you doing this? Like, why do you like act like you want, like, hate me so much? He's like, you don't remember what you did to me. He's like, you're lying to me, aren't you? I know you're manipulating me. But he eventually gets a call from the other Bulgasal. It's like, yo, bro, I want to meet. Let's hash this out. And then they sit down in a public restaurant. I even love the fact is he's eating regular food. And even Hwal was like, you can't even taste it. He's like, no, it's not even about the taste. It's about blending in to be regular humans. But he also sees through Hwal. It's like, right, you're weak because you don't drink human blood. He's like, I have been for a long time. He's like, for one, I'm older than you, I'm stronger than you, plus I drink human blood, you know? He's like, we don't have to be enemies, though. We're after the same person. And it's like, so we get a little filled in about what because it's like, right, why would you go after your own kind? He's like, my kind? He's like, well, what about humans? Humans go after their kind all the time. Because it seemed like he took personal offense to Hwal putting him and Sungung in the same, it's like, no. We are not the same. She is not my kind. So it's like, I wonder, does this have something to do with the village from 400 years ago, the one that got wiped out? I wonder, does she have some connection there? Because what does she do to him? Like, because he points out the fact this Hwal, it's like, right, you're a Bulgasal only on the outside. On the inside, you're still human because you refuse to drink human blood. But I'm curious, like, was he not a human at one point in time himself? Because we haven't really gotten into, like, whether or not these monsters, like, how monsters are born in this world. Because Bulgasal is supposed to be an evil spirit. So I'm wondering, like, Ayote, like, was he possessed at one point in time, or was he born a Bulgasal? Kind of like how demons kind of work in Supernatural, the show Supernatural. Like, I'm curious, is there some correlation there? Like, maybe even all the monsters were human at one point in time, but they were cursed and turned into monsters, or just like, now we were always monsters. I don't know what to make of that. Maybe it's one of those things I'm probably overthinking, and they'll never bother giving an actual answer to. Maybe not. But the way he made it imply, like, he wasn't human, but maybe he was at some point in time. We find out about the dark hole in his chest, like the chest. He's like, basically, it won't heal. No matter how much time, no matter how much blood he consumes, it won't fully heal. It constantly rots and heals, so it's constantly the cycle of healing and rotting. It's a wound that will never, I mean, because hell, even Hwal has one of his own. And granted, it's not as severe, but he has the mark on his arm, because that mark on his hand is supposed to be a mark from the curse, but it's like, that's never healed over the years. It stayed with him. I guess it's also, like, right, he had the wound before he became a Bulgasal, so maybe the same thing applies in Yulte's situation as well. It's like, right, I got this before I became a Bulgasal, so I'm stuck with it. I don't know. But it's like, yeah, he's basically killed her 7 times already. The Bulgasal can destroy your soul, but you have to kill someone 8 times to make it stick, which is interesting. So I wonder why the number 8. What? I mean, I like even numbers, but I feel like something like, I don't, maybe the number 8 has significance in like Korea. Maybe that's a correlation there. Maybe why that number specifically, because I feel like 6 would make sense in certain regards. 7 would also make, but I'm also wondering, like, that might just be like, because I know 7 seen as a lucky number, but I'm curious if that's just like a American/Euro thing. I mean, it might not even, because I'm curious if that's something that exists here in America just because it originated in Europe and that translated over here, or I don't know, whatever the case may be. Like, that's why I'm like, 6 and 7 just seem like the right number, so 8 just seemed weird to me. Once again, I appreciate an even number, but he can't kill her. Well, he can kill her, but just can't destroy her soul. So he's like, why don't you do it? And it's like, Hual's like, you do realize the soul is mine. He's like, yeah, but come on, you'll be making a necessary sacrifice, and it works out for everyone. I get my wound healed. You get to fully be a Bulgasal, because he's like, once you kill her, once you got rid of that soul, it existing is what ties you to your humanity. So as long as when it's finally gone, you can embrace being who you are fully. And he also made a point too, because like there was a whole conversation about monsters. Our kind is like monsters like us. He's like, so are there others? I thought he was referencing like, oh, are there other Bulgasals? But he's like, his answer kind of implies no. He's like, no, it's just us. But I think he was talking about monsters, but it wasn't just Bulgasals, it was monsters in general, because he was like, yeah, a certain someone wiped them out 600 years ago, so we're the only ones. Because they're the only true blue monsters. Everyone else are monsters who are reincarnated as humans, but they're the only, like, full-blown monsters. Even though, like, the reincarnated humans can tap into a little bit of what they were as monsters, they're still human to some extent, so it's not the same as them, and they are full-bred monsters. I guess you made the argument, technically, Hual's kind of in like a half-monster state because he hasn't fully embraced the Bulgasal side of things, because he hasn't drunk human blood. But it's like, right, but what if I refuse to? And he's like, come on, we're not, no, come on, we're allies in this. But he's like, no, I now know that you can kill her, but you can't stop her from reincarnating. So even if you go after her, I won't help you. You know, the fact of the matter is, I will just, you know, because I know you can't destroy her soul anyway. So even if you kill her, because he's like, I'll kill her and I'll find her again, and I found her 7 times before you could find her. So I could do it again, even if I won't be able to destroy her soul. I can kill her and make sure that you can't. Because he's like, a few hundred years is nothing to me. How long can you last? It's like, yeah, you've barely held on for these past 600 years. It's been gnawing at you, especially because you're like, oh, I'm so close each time. It's like, me, I'm older than you. A few centuries, I can wait that out. I've waited forever for this, you know, so I can wait a few more 100 years, but can you hold out? Can you submit yourself to this continued torture for that long? And he even stabs Hual at the end of like, right, like, look at this wound of yours. It's not going to heal fast because you're not drinking human blood, but it's like, I'm older than you. This isn't me making an offer to you. I'm telling you how it is, because if you don't, we're going to have big problems, you know? So it's like, right, here's my card. Bring the woman to me. Sadly, by the time he gets back, all shenanigans break loose because his dad shows up. And he's asking a whole bunch of questions. And I love the kids trying to get him out. He's like, no, leave. I even love that because before he left, he told Duyon that woman was a murderer. She killed my family. And I love that he was like, yeah, when I was locked up, I've come across plenty of murderers like you. And she's like, what? Because she's like, oh, I bet you're about the same age as my sister. He's like, don't talk down to me like that. He's like, I'm in my 30s. I'm like, are you really? I was like, you can't tell, bro. Because I'm like, you could be 30 or you could be 18, bro. I can't tell. I was on it. That's why I'm like, I feel like he's younger. I feel like, I mean, maybe he is telling the truth. Maybe he is. But I guess because he presents little bro energy that I just assume like, oh, like he is like a teenager. Maybe in his early 20s. He might be trying to act older than he is. I don't know. But, okay, one thing, to be fair, her sister is got to be like in her late 20s, because it's been like 15 years, and even if she was like, say, like 8 or something, she's definitely like in her 20s, if not in her 30s as well, you know. So So I guess it shouldn't be too soon. But like I said, it's just like I can't. I would never be able to tell you anyone in this cast age. I'm like, you look like you could be in your 20s. Like some of these actors might be in their late 20s, maybe even be like early to mid 30s. Probably some actors are in their 40s. I'm like, I would never ever guess. I just talked about this recently with the Silent Sea. I'm like, I could have fooled me of some of the actors being in their 40s. I'm like, you guys look great. You look like you could be in your early 30s at most. But regardless. So I don't know if that was him trying to act tougher than what he was, or he actually is in his 30s. But, yeah, I love that he's just like, no, don't go that way. And Detective Kwan's like, oh, you don't want me to go this way? I'll go this way. Kicks down the doors like, oh, I'm here to save you. But he knows her name, and she's like, no. Because I think she's nervous, like, wait, if you know who I really am, how do I know I can trust you? Granted, she knows he's not a monster because her hand isn't shaking, but still it's like, right, that's not who I am. He's like, no. Remember, you told me Bulgasal did it. Luckily, Hual shows up. He pulls out Kwan pulls out the nightstick and tries to fight him, but Hual doesn't want to. It's like, right, just like leave, just go. This isn't what it think it is. It's like, she murdered my family. He's like, what are you? Are you a junkie? Oh, that's why you're so strong, because you're a junkie. And Hual just kind of lays him down on the ground. It's like, no, just go, just leave. He doesn't want to fight his dad. He doesn't want his dad mixed up in this, because if you get mixed up in this, you will die again like you did so long ago. It's like, right, you're here in front of me. I'm happy, but I don't want you to die. I want you to be able to live a full life away from me. But Sungon is like, right, he's protecting me. He's helping me. And it's like, right. He's like, but you said it was like, you are being Sungon, so like, please, you said it was Bulgasal, I can help you with that. She's like, no one can help me except for him. And so she leaves with him. And I love that, because like, Detective Kwan's like, what's going on? And then Do Young puts his hand on, it's like, I know, getting left behind. He's like, yeah, it's like, what was it? Was it DCO? Was that what he was saying? And he was like, what? What's DCO? He's like, destroy creation. And he's like, blah, blah, I'm going to follow him. He's like, whoa, you're going to leave me here? Don't leave me here alone. This place is creepy when you're here alone. So I was curious. I had a feeling. I was like, there's no way Hual is going to actually turn him over, because this is his chance to get his soul back. And he was like, there's no way that's going to happen. But then, like, Sungon is like, right, I don't know what your reasoning is for doing all this. You won't let me see my sister. You say she's safer without me. Fine, I will trust you. You're not even telling me where we're going to go, but my sister told me to find you, and you're here, and it's like, right, I will trust you. I know you told me not to trust you, but I will. And at first when he's taking her somewhere, I'm like, is he going to? I was like, no. The fact you're in the woods, I'm like, oh, is he going to take her to the place where they died all those years ago? But it's like, no, he took her to the well. And he called up Yote, and I love the cutting back and forth of like, wait, is Yote like waiting in the like cage or whatever for him? I was like, oh no, it's meant to be misleading like that, making me wonder, is he actually going to turn her over? But it's like, no, he's not. It's like, right, he's going to get his soul back, and he's like, right, you do this, like you become human again, I will find you and I'll kill you. He's like, yeah, go ahead and do it. I will have my revenge at the end of the day, but I will have my soul back. Even if you come after me every reincarnation, I will have gotten what I wanted, and she'll be locked away, and you won't get what you want. So, and the moment like Yute like hung up, he was like, okay, and he calls someone up. He's like, put it into action. He's like, right, he knows enough about Hual to know, like, right, he knows, right, I know about the kid that was cursed 600 plus years ago, and I know why she cursed you in the first place. Hual never got those answers, but he doesn't care. It's like, right now he cares about getting his revenge. Beyond that, it doesn't matter. And so he has this confrontation with Sungon, and it's like, right. He's like, right, this is a cage. It's meant to be a prison to lock away the person. She's like, oh, you had a family. And it's like, oh, like who? He's like, the person, and it's like, the person responsible for taking everything away from me. But also, she's like, oh, he killed your family like me. No, this isn't about him, and this is about you. And she's almost like, what? It's like 600 years ago killed my entire family. You took my soul. Because early in the episode, he was like, it's not even your soul. She's like, what? Not my soul. And it's like, he tells her everything. She's like, no, that's impossible. You're lying. He's like, yes. And he's like, I'm going to make you an immortal again. And once you become a Bulgasal again, you'll remember everything that you did. And I'm going to lock you in here forever so that you carry the pain that I've been carrying for the past 600 years. I want you to feel all that. I want you to remember what you did. And she's like, no, what about my sister? He's like, you don't even get it, do you? It's like, whatever. Because he was like, you murdered my son, my blind son. You drunk from him. And my wife, you killed her in a way that her eyes were still open as she tried to protect our son, And so he didn't even bother explaining, like, your sister is my wife reincarnated. But sadly, Siho had escaped from the old lady because her and her guy at the butcher shop were away, because she had noticed that the picture of her at the butcher lady, saw her as a little girl with Hwal beside her. So she's like, because the lady knew about Bulgasal and the reincarnated monsters and stuff, and she knew something was off, and so she left. Well, even knew about, right, you see things when you touch people, but she ended up leaving, and in the process, she got caught by... Once again, I like how they implement that, where we like rewind to the past and get introduced to the monsters. This one's essentially a sea monster that it has hairy arms, which is interesting. There's a Japanese monster in mythology. I cannot think of its name. Is it like a kappa? Not a kappa, but like a copy or something like that. It's like a water, like, mythical creature or something in Japanese mythology. It kind of almost made me wonder about it. I guess this is supposed to be like, a little creature of the Black Lagoon-esque, this particular monster, because it almost seems werewolf-esque, because apparently it's a water monster with hairy arms, but we've seen the hairy arm dude. I'm like, right, and he's the one that kidnapped Siho, and obviously, you had the seer lady show up in time and be like, hey, you need to stop, like, the girl's been kidnapped, and it's like, right, they're going to go rescue, they got to go rescue Siho. And it's like, right, if I can't get what I want, I'm going to get it indirectly, because like, I know there's enough. I don't know if he knows about that being Hwal's wife reincarnated Siho. He definitely knows it's Sungon's sister, but he doesn't know. I don't know if he knows. I mean, especially considering this guy killed her other sister, so that's even, he probably knows that's going to be enough to trigger her, but I don't know if he knows that that's Hwal's wife reincarnated, well, former wife reincarnated. But they run into Quan again, and he's just like, no, I'm not stopping. And it's like, right, like, she's like, why would I trust you, Hwal, when you said you were going to kill me? He's like, you what? Oh, like, I'm not going to let you go because you're going to kill her. He's like, no, this is, come on, like, didn't you hear her sister's been kidnapped? She's in trouble. Let's go. And he's like, once again, he's just like, what's going on? And I love that while they're thinking about knowing exactly what monster it was, and his father, like, we find out this monster they're about to come face to face with that's been reincarnated. It's the same one that took his arm all those years ago. I was like, that's it. Because even as they're driving there, he's like, oh my, he's like, what, is it your arm? He's like, yeah, but don't worry about it. It's like, oh, it's almost like your body, like some part of your soul remembers, because like being in close enough proximity to this thing. Like, I don't know whether it's supposed to be indicative of, in every life, he's always had arm issues. Like, something always comes up about his left arm. I don't know if that's supposed to be indicative of that, or is it just because he's in close enough proximity to this monster, or it's territory enough that it just makes him go, ugh, like phantom limb syndrome, even though he still has his limb. Which even that is there's a condition like that, isn't it? Where basically, like, you feel like your limbs aren't your own. Not necessarily that you have phantom limb syndrome, but you feel like your limbs aren't your own. I think that's a medical, like, psychological, like, phenomenon, isn't it? I could be wrong. That could be one of those things, like, I picked up from, like, medical stuff like House or something. I don't know. But by the time they all get there, the phone calling Siho, it ends up leading to the boat out there. And obviously, I guess Sungung isn't a really good swimmer, and so she, like, kind of drowns a little bit. But luckily, Hwal saved her and brought the boat in. And we never found out what was actually wrapped up, but it must have been a piece of her body, like her hand or something like that. We just know it was something ripped. And it's like, right, Siho's like, you said... No, it's like, Sungung's like, you said my sister would be safe as long as she was away from me. Also, when they had that little phone, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then it flips open, I was like, oh, it's one of those. I mean, of course, like, it's a more recent show, so it would have, like, that higher tech. But I was like, right. I've never actually seen, like, I've seen commercials for them, so I've never just seen them out. So seeing it unfolded, it's like, oh, God, that's still so weird to me, like a smartphone folding like that. It feels so weird and so unnatural. I say that as someone who had a flip phone back in the day, a Motorola Razr, in fact. But it just made me, I was like, it just feels weird to look at, seeing it unfold into like a full screen smartphone. It's just, But yeah, Yutei is like, oh no, like, I got her, and if she wants her sister back, you have to bring that woman to me. Like, I offered you friendship, but you basically spat away. So it's like, yeah, this is it. And so Sungung's like, right, he has my sister. He's like, go ahead and let him take me. I don't care what happened. Let him kill me. I just need to rescue my sister. Let him know he can have me. But it's like, right, I will rescue your sister. The fact is, you said that I'm the sword that can kill Bulgasal, then let me be it. Find a way to kill him, and until then, I will help you. You know, it's like, he's sucking, once again, it took a while, but he finally said, fine, until he's dead, I will help you. I will figure this whole thing out. We will find a way to end this. And it's just because, you know, now that Seahole's in the middle of this, it's like, right, I need to protect the people that matter to me. Because he also doesn't know that Seahole's pregnant, too. So there's probably going to be a level, an angle to all of that as well. I was like, you don't think that's any correlation to what I was about to say? I don't think she's far enough along for something like. I was thinking, like, are they going super far hard in the paint and make it like I said, we never found out what it was that was actually covered up. It could have just been like, oh, here's like, it could be like an ear. It looked like it was something like big body part size, like it could have been a hand or something, but it could have been like maybe an ear or something, or I don't know. They never showed you what it was. It could have just been like, oh, here's something of hers, and it's just covered in her blood. Maybe that's all it is. There's still other monsters that have been reincarnated at play, and he's been in contact with them. I mean, well, we shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, the guy he was working with last episode, the bus driver, so he's probably been in contact with every other monster too, because I mean, they all want her soul regardless, which is so interesting considering, like, well, they're all driven because they're after Hual's soul, but it's like, he's the one that wants her dead. He needs her dead anyway, so I'm like, they're not going to get what they want. He's going to kind of get what he wants, but not her, the others, so... But I guess that's going to be the continuous thing of, like, there's almost probably going to be that monster of the week element of, like, every episode or every other episode we're going to be dealing with monsters from the past. So, but yeah, despite his feelings about it, Hual has to work with the woman he hates more so than anything in the world, if it means, you know, trying to protect the woman he loved at one point in time and making sure that she actually gets to live a good, normal-ish life. I mean, because even Sungong was saying, like, right, me and my sister, we would just want to worry about the stupid, normal, simple, mundane things about life, you know, and not have to be worried about all of this. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where next episode takes us, which will be tomorrow, so we'll have to wait and see. That's really all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.